All right, so we're back. Another edition of the fantasy football series. As you've noticed, this is not Bozo.
Bing Bong.
This is Bing Bong. Gabe is here to tell me his. We're just gonna go through top 5 instead of 10 like last time because that was way too long. So we're just gonna do top 5 in each position, go over sleepers, and just generally discuss like how we would want to draft in fantasy, some ideal situations, that kind of stuff. So we'll just hop into it. So for receivers, a few of ours line up, but our number one lines up at least. So we both have Antonio Brown at number 1. What's a big reason you have Antonio Brown at the top of your list, Gabe?
Antonio Brown has been pretty consistent year in, year out since about 2014, I believe. So he's always a go-to, puts up consistent numbers every year. Lots of touchdowns, great route running. So.
Yeah, he's an easy number 1. He's going to get tons of yards. They've got a... He's gonna get thrown to plenty of times. They've got a really high explosive offense. They like to get down the field as quick as they can, and he's a big component of that. He gets those big yards, helps out Le'Veon Bell on the outside. He can run past people when he wants. It's an obvious number 1. For whatever reason, Russell had him at number 4 in this list. It confused me, but it's a viable. I mean, it's his opinion. It's whatever. But yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown. I get it's all opinion based. So like, depending on what kind of receiver you want and stuff. But for a lot of people, Antonio Brown is generally number 1. So. My number 2 is DeAndre Hopkins, and it's mostly because Deshaun Watson's coming back. He's a really good route runner. He's got strong hands. He can leverage off the line. He can get open easily. He's not going to zoom past you like Antonio or Odell Beckham or anyone like that. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to get very easy possessive catches and get a few yards after the catch to make it worthwhile. So that's why I have him number 2. He's really elite at what he does. He's a different kind of receiver than Antonio Brown, but he's not any worse or any better, I guess. It's just a different flavor. Gets the job done. Who do you got?
Number 2, I'll put Julio Jones just because he tends to battle injuries sometimes during the regular season, but he has a really good vertical game. He can get one good play for 13 points sometimes, 7 yards and a touchdown, and he tends to do that sometimes, and he's pretty consistent usually if he can stay healthy. So number 2.
Yeah, and in PPR leagues, these number 1 through 5 on wide receivers are going to be the ones that get you like 30 to 40 points a game. It feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
So they can really go off, and Julio definitely shows that off. Number 3, I've got Odell Beckham Jr. from the Giants, and that one feels obvious. He's just like he was describing about Julio. Odell does a lot of the same things. He breaks way fast. He's got high vertical. He gets those catches. He wins those jump balls. Very high reception-based receiver. He's thrown to a lot by Eli. So yeah, it's a good solid pick if your 1, 2 are gone. What about you?
Number 3, I have DeAndre Hopkins just because he gets a lot of red zone targets. He's a go-to guy. They also have Will Fuller, but I think DeAndre Hopkins will get the majority of the work and the touchdowns and a lot of red zone looks. So.
Yeah, and the Texans will probably have a lot of newer packages coming in with a full off season, knowing what that Deshaun is going to actually be the starter, and there's no competition really. So they probably designed a few fun little bootlegs where he can do like these long over-the-top routes, get those easy 10, 15 yards a catch, that kind of stuff. So I can see his numbers going up drastically this season in comparison. So yeah, he'll be good, really good for PPR because he's number 1 target on a high offense team. Deshaun's going to be throwing it as much as he can probably. So it's pretty good. And number 4, I have Gabe's number 2 pick. I have Julio Jones. And the only reason he's not higher than Odell or DeAndre is because... I don't know, really. Injury proneness, I guess. Towards the end of the season, he just kind of wears down. It's just how it is. Some players have more injuries than others, and I don't know. Sometimes it feels the risk is higher than the reward at the end of the season, which is kind of what you're drafting for. You're drafting for winning the playoffs and stuff. So.
And number 4, I have Odell Beckham. I think he's going to come off injury strong. I think he's going to get a lot of looks. I figured he'd have at least over 7 touchdowns this year. Yeah. So, but he has some competition now with Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard, but I still think he will get a majority of the workload and be a good receiver. So.
Yeah, he'll definitely have those big plays. Eli likes throwing the ball as far as he can. He definitely helps that out a lot. So at number 5, we both have Michael Thomas from New Orleans, and in the last episode I mentioned, or first episode, I mentioned that I picked Michael Thomas in the top 5 because Drew Brees is his quarterback, and I'm pretty much sticking to that on this one. Drew Brees is just going to chunk the ball, and if Michael Thomas is the number 1 option, you should really think about picking him up. It's pretty much my only reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I'm about the same. He's really the only, I guess, deep threat for New Orleans I can think of. They also have Alvin Kamara, who I've seen catch some longer passes, but for the most part, he's a majority of their receiving core. So.
Okay, so since we're doing just top 5 for the receivers, do you have any honorable mentions that you've that not maybe a sleeper, but maybe someone that would be almost interchangeable?
There's a couple. Possibly Mike Evans. He usually does really good. He's has strong hands. He's tall. He can get up there, and he usually gets a lot of touchdowns. Pretty consistent. Or maybe T.Y. Hilton. He's always a good flex. He's pretty consistent. Yeah. I think he's slightly underrated. He gets injured sometimes, but for the most part, he's pretty good. So.
Yeah, for these past 3 or 4 seasons, I've done fantasy, and when I've taken it seriously, T.Y. Hilton's always been my go-to flex guy when I can get him. If he's there in the 6th round or something, oh yeah, I'm picking him up ASAP. He's really consistent, and with Andrew Luck coming back, he's probably going to be even more higher production than he has been this last year or two, probably. So yeah, I definitely agree with T.Y. should definitely be an option for you. Another one for me would be Doug Baldwin. He's he might not be a sleeper, but he's probably right at the bottom of most starters, and maybe not starting in a lot of leagues, but I feel like Russell Wilson's going to be trying to abuse Doug Baldwin. He's a really good route runner. He can get open, and he gets good yards after the catch. It's pretty hard to take down, so he's probably someone you might want to be on. And Stephon Diggs, who ESPN has rated at 16 for PPR leagues right now, but he's probably going to end up being in the top 10 points total wise. He's going to get a lot of targets. He's probably going to get a lot of long catches and yards after. So yeah, that's mine. Okay, so we'll just move to running backs now. My first one is Todd Gurley, and it's because I'm pretty biased to Todd Gurley because last year I picked him in the first round, and he paid off a lot. He basically won me 3rd place in the league, and I only had him as a good player on my team, and it felt really nice. He gets a touchdown almost every week. He gets close to, if not over, 100 yards each week. He's a very top of the line, consistent running back who's going to get you, and he'll probably get passes out of the backfield because when he gets in a game, he can really take it over. Once he gets going, he just runs through people. So who you got?
My number 1 running back, I have Le'Veon Bell just because he catches a lot. He's a good receiving back, and I had him last year. He's really consistent. He had a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards overall, and he's a majority of their offense. He gets the ball a lot, so he's definitely a really good choice if you can get him early. So
it's crazy how good Pittsburgh's offense really is because they have Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster at receiver, and those 2 guys are going to be top 20 receivers overall, and they're their number 1 and 2. And they have Le'Veon Bell, who's arguably a 1-2 depending on who you ask with him and Todd Gurley. So it's pretty crazy that it's like that. I have Le'Veon Bell as my number 2 actually. It's pretty much for the same reason. He's high production offense. Ben Roethlisberger's just going to be handing the ball to him as much as possible, and he's really shifty. He can get to the second phase of the defense pretty easily on a lot of the runs, which results in those big plays he always does. You got number 2?
I have Todd Gurley. Kind of flip-flopped there, but Todd Gurley, he gets the ball a lot in the red zone. He can score you a lot of touchdowns, break off big runs, and it's pretty consistent week in and week out. He's a good fantasy back, so.
Yeah. All right, so for number 3, I have Ezekiel Elliott, and it's because he's got Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's going to scramble. He's going to throw it to his running back a lot. In a PPR league, that's going to be really helpful. Receiving yards and catches in general are going to be very coveted as a running back, and he just gets a ton of yards on the ground anyways. He's getting close to 100 yards a game. Almost every week, he'll probably score a touchdown or two, maybe more now that they don't have Dez, which, I mean, in hindsight, he didn't do too much. But it's another person they don't have to target, and they can just give to him. He'll probably be the main focus of the offense when by the time the season comes in, and I think it'll be the result to a more balanced attack than they've been doing when they had Romo at the Cowboys. So maybe a good pick.
Number 3, I have David Johnson. He got hurt last year, unfortunately, but I think he'll come off strong. They also have a new quarterback, Josh Rosen, who's a rookie, and you really don't know what he's going to do. And before he got injured, he was a majority of their offense. I think he had over 1,200 yards, and he was just a good back, and I think that he'll get a majority of the work and the looks in the beginning. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to agree. Considering I have David Johnson at number 4. Pretty much for the same reasons Gabe was saying. He's coming off injury. He's probably got something he's wanting to prove. Arizona's a iffy team as a whole. You know, they're always struggling to get in the playoffs. They're in a tough division to try and get into. And I think David Johnson's really going to help them. They've got that young quarterback that he was talking about, Rosen, and I think Johnson's a good option out of the backfield to help supplement that rookie quarterback. He's going to take a lot of pressure off him, and they're probably going to rely on him a lot early in the season before they open that playbook up. Probably going to be a lot of running, and that's why a lot of people are dropping Larry Fitzgerald down and most Arizona receivers, because Dave Johnson's probably going to be the main focus of that offense, so it's probably a good idea to pick him up as long as he stays healthy. Who you got number 4?
Number 4, I have Alvin Kamara. He's a crazy athlete, honestly. Last year, he went off receiving and rushing. He was a really big majority of their offense, plus with Mark Ingram getting suspended and him probably taking the number 1 spot. I just think that he's going to be a really good choice, probably a first rounder, maybe early second round.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's going to be a good choice running back.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to agree. I had him in my top 10, not my top 5 though. It's I don't know. It depends on the person, really. He could be in anyone's top 5. So for my number 5, I have Kareem Hunt from Kansas City. He's just kind of a freak athlete. He's going to blow past you. He's probably going to get plenty of touches out of the backfield. He's quick enough to run those outside flat routes and just bolt upfield to get a bunch of yards. So he's probably just going to get a buku amount of points in a PPR league. And a non-PPR league. He's probably just going to have plenty of rushing yards. He's probably going to have touchdowns. So if you have to settle for getting Kareem Hunt as your number 1 running back, you're really not in a bad place. He's a good one to snag if you can. What about you?
Number 5, I have Leonard Fournette, just because he's a really tough runner. He did really good last year. He kind of showed up last year. I think he'll get a lot of touches and a lot of red zone looks and probably over 6 touchdowns, I would imagine.
I feel like more than that, only because Blake Bortles is their quarterback, and they're a classic run defense stopper. You know, like they run heavy, kill the clock, and hope their defense holds up that game. Yeah. Kind of like the Texans used to be back in the day. Yeah. But yeah, I would have to agree. He's probably a really good running back to grab if you can. So we'll move to quarterbacks now. So we both have Aaron Rodgers number 1. And I feel like that's really obvious. Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury year. He's got a lot to prove. He looks good in preseason so far. He's throwing well. It doesn't look like he's having much issues. There's no reports of him coming out with like any random aches or pains from the post-injury stuff, so it's a good sign. And he's got plenty of weapons to throw to. Mm-hmm. So there's not going to be an issue. They acquired Jimmy Graham, so that's even more. They got Tom Montgomery in the backfield, and that's just another receiver to throw to, essentially. So yeah, he's probably going to get a ton of points, plenty of touchdowns, low interception rate. Yeah. What about you? Is there a reason for Aaron Rodgers for you?
Basically everything the same you just said. He's really consistent though. Some quarterbacks aren't quite as consistent as him, and he seems to be one of the more consistent ones. So it's definitely a early choice.
Yeah. So for my number 2, I have Carson Wentz, and I think I'm holding him higher than a lot of people that I'm starting to realize, and I'm gonna keep doing that because I just think Carson Wentz is gonna have like a really good year. He had a crazy rookie season last year. He won like 12 games before he got hurt, and I don't know. I have a really good feeling that he's just gonna go off. I feel like he learned a lot in the off season. He's got a better team than he did last season, arguably, with all that experience in the Super Bowl, people coming back. He's got plenty of weapons. His defense is stellar. He's in a really good spot to just churn points out. All he has to do is really just complete the passes. So yeah, what about you, number 2?
Number 2, I have Tom Brady. It's pretty self-explanatory. Arguably the best quarterback ever. Usually does really good in fantasy. Puts up a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
They normally don't have any big name running backs. It's more of a Tom Brady running the show kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so he has the ball most of the time. He's obviously going to get more points than your average quarterback. So.
For number 3 on my quarterback list, I have Deshaun Watson, and it's probably some of the Texans fan coming at me a little bit, putting him at number 3. After only playing like 6 games last season, but in those 6 games he showed a lot, and it showed that Bill O'Brien can actually adapt his play calling to a really good quarterback, which is a good sign. So I'm hoping that they do what I was talking about when I was talking about DeAndre for the receivers. I hope they do a lot more bootlegs. We're going to see him scrambling a lot, but it'll be more like a Russell Wilson type approach, I'm assuming. Run when you need to. Don't try and run all the time, but a good passer. And if he needs to run, he's perfectly fine at it. He's really fast, and he's got plenty of weapons as long as Fuller and Miller and all those guys can stay healthy on the outside with DeAndre. The Texans are in a really good spot to do well. They've got Lamar Miller and Deontay Foreman in the backfield, and they're not the best running backs by any means, but they're not bad. And they get the job done. Lamar Miller's fast. He can run the outside. So, yeah, I think Deshaun Watson's set up to have a high point year this season.
Number 3, I have Carson Wentz. Basically what he said, I just think he has great vision. He's really good at escaping pressure. He can run when he needs to, and very accurate, puts up a lot of touchdowns, little interceptions. And I think he's going to have a really good year this year. And also the Eagles as a whole are really clicking. They're really good.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see him even at number 1 quarterback this year. So
yeah, I can see him moving up to the top 2 or 3 in most people's like power rankings by like week 3 maybe. But for my number 4, I have Tom Brady, and it's pretty much why Gabe said Tom Brady is he's the greatest of all time essentially. It's hard to argue anyone against him with the amount of Super Bowl appearances, the wins, MVPs, the stats, all that stuff. And this season's not going to be any different than that. I don't think he takes any step back. He'll probably play just as good, if not better, than last season. I mean, he's Tom Brady. That's kind of what he does. He's really consistent. Every few weeks, he'll have a really big game, and it really helps you as a player doing fantasy. With like when I draft Tom Brady, you can expect like every 3rd or 4th week he's going to score 50 when he's normally scoring like 30 to 35, which is still a lot. But those 50-point games, they put you over. They add to your total for the playoff seeding and all that kind of stuff. So. It's very beneficial to have quarterbacks like that who don't throw picks, basically. What's your number 4?
And number 4, I have Drew Brees. Drew Brees, I don't think he gets enough credit where it's due because he really has a changing team. His team changed a lot, I guess is how you could say that.
That's true.
He has different people every year, and he still manages to put up. It's not uncommon to see him put up 5,000 yards.
Right.
And always has great numbers. He has broken a lot of records. He's definitely a future Hall of Famer, and in my opinion, one of the best ever. So, yeah, the obvious number 4.
Yeah, I have Drew Brees at my number 5 actually, and I have to agree with everything you were saying. Basically, Drew Brees is a crazy good quarterback. He doesn't throw many picks. He can throw it as far as any other quarterback. He's very accurate. He distributes the ball well. He gets it to pretty much everyone, so it's hard for defenses to keep a consistent coverage and like stick to one guy, right? Like Michael Thomas might be the number 1 receiver, but that doesn't mean he's the number 1 target every play for Drew Brees, right? Like he throws to who's open, he doesn't care who it is. So it's really good. It's a really good trait for a quarterback to have. He's going to get a ton of points. He's going to throw like close to 5,000 yards, like you were saying. And they're probably going to do good this season. So I could see him getting a lot of touchdowns. I could see them, just having a better offense than last season, like clicking better, like a smooth train moving forward. And hopefully his line keeps him safe. It's probably a big deal about it. It's only the issue that they have. But yeah, Drew Brees number 5, pretty solid.
Yeah. My number 5, I had Deshaun Watson. I didn't get to see too much of him before he had his knee injury, but from what I did see, he's gonna be really good. He's really mobile. He can chunk the ball. He has a couple of vertical receivers, and I could see him putting up some rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns. Just a lot of points overall. So that's why I have him as number 5.
And that's the end of the quarterbacks, so we'll move to the tight ends now. And these are probably going to be pretty predictable. There's not much variance to them, so we'll just get into it. We both have the same number 1 and 2, so we talk about it together. So for number 1, we have Rob Gronkowski, and I feel like that's super obvious. I think the only reason you wouldn't pick him is injuries and consistency to like play each week. Basically, it feels like he's always got something wrong with him, but the weeks he's there, he scores a crap ton of points. Tom Brady loves targeting him. He gets those touchdowns. He's a very red zone heavy recipient of passes. So you're gonna get points. You're definitely gonna get points. He'll have his games where he crests 100 yards. He'll have like 5 or 6 receptions most of the time. He doesn't drop the ball much. He's a strong dude. Any major reasons you would take Gronk at number 1?
No, it's basically everything you said. A lot of red zone looks, and when he does play, he does get injured a lot. When he does, he always seems to put up a decent amount of points, enough to help you out in the long run. So.
Mm-hmm. At number 2, we have Travis Kelce for Kansas City. Why do you think he's good?
Travis Kelce's to me, he seems like more of a receiver. He's really quick for a tight end. He can have a lot of long catches, long runs after the catch. Pretty consistent overall. He's really cocky. I like that too. And but he's gonna be a great tight end when it's all said and done, I believe. So.
As long as he can stay healthy with those concussions, he just needs to stop lowering his head pretty much, and he'll be fine. Once he plays a full season, I think he'll be right. I think he'll be that player. He's just got to take care of himself. But yeah, he's gonna get tons of points, plenty of touchdowns. So number 3, I have Zach Ertz, and I pick tight ends mostly off of quarterbacks. So you're probably gonna see a trend of really good quarterbacks with tight ends. So Zach Ertz has got Carson Wentz. And with a quarterback who might have to scramble every now and then, or who might just be running bootlegs, tight ends are those easy hot routes to throw to when coverages are too tight, stuff like that. And Zach Ertz is just really good. He's got good hands. He's strong. He runs good routes. Typical tight end stuff. Pretty reliable. And they're on a good team, so they're gonna be passing plenty. So yeah, Zach Ertz feels like he's gonna be worth the pick. So who you got number 3?
Number 3, I have Delaney Walker.
Mm-hmm.
He's been pretty consistent the last few years overall. I know I had him 1 year. He kind of started breaking out when he was at San Francisco. I noticed behind Vernon Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But once he got traded to Tennessee is when he really started. You could see that he was going to be really good. And Tennessee doesn't have too many big targets that I can think of off the top of my head, so I know he'll get a lot of looks from Mariota.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I could see him putting up big numbers this year.
Yeah. And Mariota will be a lot like, probably even more so like Carson Wentz, like scrambling. He'll probably be running a lot more, because that's just how he is. So those little scrambles thrown to the tight end underneath, that kind of stuff's probably going to happen a lot. So, yeah. Number 4, we both have Greg Olsen. And I love Greg Olsen. He's like my favorite tight end to draft. He scores 10 plus a week for a tight end. That's pretty good. In a PPR at least. So he's getting, well, maybe. He gets a consistent amount of points each week. You can rely on him to not crap the bed for you, basically. It's basically my reasoning for picking him. And Cam Newton is his quarterback in Carolina, so a lot of the same stuff with like Mariota. Cam runs a ton, so the tight ends are pretty important.
Yeah, I have Greg Olsen also. I think basically everything that you said. He's pretty consistent. It just it really depends how Cam's playing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when Cam Newton's having off game, so Greg Olsen. So
That's true.
he's not. He'll have some weeks where he just kind of won't show up,
Right.
which is why it's kind of sketchy to put him in your lineup. But for the most part, he's definitely a top tight end, and I wouldn't hesitate to draft him early. So.
Do you think the Panthers take a step forward or backward this season? Because they were in that tie for first, right, or second. It was the Falcons, Saints, and them, and they all three made the playoffs.
Oh yeah, okay. Man, I really don't know. I like how they're incorporating McCaffrey a little more.
Yes.
Their defense definitely needs to step up. Their O-line needs to step up.
Yeah.
I think if their O-line gets it together and they just kind of start working more as a team, that they can definitely be good and win their division. They just it just didn't work out last year for him. Cam Newton didn't play that good, but
Yeah, he had an off season for sure.
but when they're on, they're definitely a really hard team to beat. So,
Right. Okay. And at number 5, we both have Evan Ingram from the Giants. And as you are the local Giants fan, I will let you talk about him.
Evan Ingram, I've been watching him since he was at Ole Miss. He's been a beast since college. And last year he really showed out when Odell was gone. I think he was in the top 5 for tight ends. He had, I can't remember how many touchdowns, but he did really good. He's more of a wide receiver. He's quick, he's tall, he's fast, and he also has strength to him. He's he'll get a lot of red zone looks, and I still think that even though Odell's coming back, he'll still get a lot of looks and a lot of touchdowns. So definitely a top 5 pick.
Yes, I would agree with all of that. Okay, so that's all the positions, top 5 at least, and yeah. Okay, we'll go into the sleepers now. I guess I'll run through my list really quick, and then you can run through yours, or do you want to interchange each player?
You can run through yours. I'll do mine afterwards.
Okay, so for mine, the first one I thought of was Julian Edelman, and I think he's a sleeper in the unconventional sense, only because he's got a 4-game suspension he'll be serving, so he's probably not going to be drafted a lot. So for that mid-season fresh pair of legs, he's really good to pick up, like a backup flex or a good number 2 receiver that you feel like waiting 4 weeks for if you're about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like Julian Edelman. He's always been someone I've picked up anyways in the past. So yeah, good sleeper. The next one's Martavis Bryant, and I think he'll be good this year because he's moving to Oakland and he's got Derek Carr, he's got a new scene, he's got new people to do stuff with, and I think the Oakland offense is very they're gonna go. He's gonna be chunking the ball downfield. He's gonna be throwing a lot of passes. It's gonna be fast pace. John Gruden loves throwing that spider 2-wide banana. Maybe Martavis Bryant takes advantage of it. I'm sorry I said that.
I'm sorry I said that. Spider 2-wide banana. Man.
I had to though. We talked. Okay.
Surgical effort by Drew Brees here tonight.
Spider 2-wide banana. The line slides to the left. Watch the young back cut down the defensive end, but there's a beautiful banana. Doesn't it look like a banana, Mike? These Saints run all my favorite plays. I am really jealous.
Man.
The next one is another receiver, Sammy Watkins, and he went to Kansas City this season. And I think Sammy Watkins is due to finally do something in the NFL. He's a crazy good athlete. He's really fast. He runs down that sideline quick. He's good over the top. And when he was first at the Bills the first few seasons, I was a very big Sammy Watkins advocate. I was drafting him when I could. That dude's just really good. He's got good hands. He was great at Clemson. He's just it just hasn't happened yet, I guess.
He's a beast at Clemson.
He was so good, man. All the receivers when he was there, the 3-year span, dude, they were crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're looking for a good receiver that might take over your number 2 or flex spot, Sammy Watkins is definitely a viable option. The next one I have is Nick Chubb from Cleveland. I have both Cleveland running backs, actually. I think they're both sleepers, him and Duke Johnson. And I don't know if Duke Johnson's really a sleeper, per se, because he's had big seasons and stuff, and he's been noticed on the fantasy front. But him and Nick Chubb are probably going to be a really good run back committee this season. When they win games, they'll probably be a big component of that, because they don't have a solid passing game yet, right? Nothing's been shown yet. That they have Tyrod Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like they'll be getting a lot of work in. They'll probably get a few passes out of the backfield. They'll be good for PPR. And they'll be good backup running backs. They'll be good number 2s or flexes. So, yeah. And then on the QB front, I have Case Keenum. And he went to Denver, new team. But Case Keenum is good. He's a good, consistent quarterback. If you waited too long to get one and they're all gone, like all the top ones are gone, he's a good fallback. He's also good trade bait. Like if for some reason Denver just kind of goes off the season, it's good to have him to trade. You get something that you need, like a receiver or something. That's stuff I like to do. And then the last sleeper I have is Sam Darnold, and he's definitely a hardcore sleeper because a lot of people think he's going to suck with the Jets, from what I've been hearing at
Or
least.
possibly not even start.
Right,
with,
or not even start.
Bridgewater showing out a little bit.
That's true.
So.
But the only reason I put him as a sleeper, though, is because there's the off chance that he just is crazy better than he was in college and the NFL for whatever reason. Like, sometimes that happens. Like, Carson Wentz is way better now than he was 2 years ago in college.
Yeah.
It's just like some people make that step. And for him, Sam Darnold's got the good stature as an athlete. He can throw. The only issue is he just throws too many picks, which is fixable. Just, like, spend time watching film and, like, have a good QB coach with you, and you can fix that a lot of the times. So yeah, those are all the sleepers I got.
My sleepers, I have no really particular order. Number 1 I have is Jordan Wilkins. He's running back from Ole Miss. He's at Indianapolis now. Their starter got suspended, and he's getting first team reps, and apparently he's supposed to get a lot of work. You really don't know what's going to happen with Andrew Luck. He's been gone a while. He could choke, and you could see him getting a lot of work. So that's why I have him. I also have Mitch Trubisky. A lot of people don't think about him, but he has some new receivers like Allen Robinson and Taylor Gabriel from Atlanta. And so he has some targets now. They have a new offensive coordinator. And so, yeah, I can see him being a sleeper, definitely. I also have Marquise Goodwin from San Francisco. But they have Jimmy Garoppolo now, and he if he continues to play good like he did at the end of last year, I could see him doing really good. He's really fast, extremely fast.
Olympic fast, you might say.
Yeah. He could possibly be the number 1 receiver this year. So
big statement.
So he so look out for him. He could be a waiver wire pickup. Also have Nelson Aguilar from Philadelphia. Now that Carson Wentz is back, you could see him putting up some bigger numbers.
Honestly, totally forgot about that guy.
Yeah. He had some promising numbers at the end of last season. And so yeah. And Philly's offense overall is just really good. So I could see him definitely doing something big. My last sleeper I have is Will Fuller. A lot of people overlook him with DeAndre Hopkins. He's really fast. He has a great vertical game. And, Deshaun Watson's back. So you can see him getting a lot of looks that not many people think about. So you can definitely pick him up later on. And that's all that I have.
I think the only drawback for Fuller, as a Texans fan, I actually know this one. I actually know this stuff. But he's just got crappy hands. He keeps dropping crap. Like he gets great passes. Oh, he's gonna score and drops it. It happens way too often. And he's also been hurt, so he needs to stay healthy. If he stays healthy and he can catch a ball, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
It might happen. It's definitely something you should look at getting. Okay, so now we're gonna discuss various ways to go about doing the draft. And we'll do it by PPR standards just to make it easy. And let's say we're drafting in a 12-man league, and we're at between 5 and 7. Middle of the draft. Who are some people to pick up if you're? Let's say that all the receivers, like everyone picks receivers first, right? So all of your top 5 receivers are gone. Who is somebody, like, what are you looking to do? Are you getting a running back, or are you falling back to another receiver?
The first thing I would look for is a running back that can also catch the ball. Because the way I draft, I normally go running back heavy. and but I mean it's a personal preference. But,
for sure.
Like Devontae Freeman, he could be a later round pick. Christian McCaffrey, guys like that would be really good. If not, wide receivers I'd look for would be like T.Y. Hilton, maybe A.J. Green if he's still there.
I kind of like Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's a good 1-2. Larry Fitzgerald's always pretty good. Any of the Minnesota top receivers right now are pretty good pickups in the first round. I feel like Devontae Adams, Green Bay quarterback or Green Bay receiver / tight ends. Like Jimmy Graham. If you want to sneak one in for whatever reason, like somebody from Green Bay is always good. Devontae Adams, so on and so forth. Another sleeper I actually forgot about is Jordy Nelson because he went to Oakland, and I think Jordy Nelson's gonna have like a crazy season. He's great at route running. He's really good. He's got good hands. So if you want to sneak that one in the late first round, I mean that's a viable choice, I guess. How early do you think about drafting quarterbacks in like a 10 to 12 man league?
A 10 to 12 man league. A big mistake I used to make, I would draft them really early.
Yeah.
Extremely early, first or second round. And then I kind of realized that there's a lot more options when it comes to quarterbacks than there are good wide receivers and running backs and tight ends. I feel like quarterbacks, you have more options. A lot of quarterbacks can put up decent numbers, not so much with receivers and tight ends. So I go for third or maybe fourth round, earliest, maybe fifth. But I definitely wouldn't go any earlier than second round. Third, the earliest. I would pick one.
You should definitely be investing your first 3 rounds in receivers and running backs exclusively. Those will be your heavy point getters, and you got to invest. I like to take quarterbacks between like fifth or sixth and later. I don't even start like considering. And the only reason I would consider early is if somebody does some weird draft meta stuff where they're like, I'm picking Tom Brady, 3rd pick, that kind of stuff. And you're like, and then everyone follows them because that always happens. Because they get scared. One time I did a defense like that. I picked a defense in the 4th round, and then everyone spent that round picking defenses. So when the next round came, I got the receiver and won. Yeah, it was kind of crappy. But that's like stuff like that you can do. You can like play little mind games with people. If you know someone's really itching to get a pick, then you don't have to worry about having to stress about getting them. You can focus on getting someone else. And it's good to have like a set list in your mind of receivers you're willing to jump onto if they're there. Like if you're in the first round and you get like a 4th pick and you're not expecting Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, or Odell to be there, make sure you make sure you look before you pick is what I'm trying to say. I made that mistake where I was like, okay, Odell, Antonio Brown, and Julio Jones are not going to be there. I did this last year. And I went and picked Todd Gurley. Ended up paying off. It was a dumb mistake because Antonio Brown and Odell were there. Could have made, I don't know, just like stuff like that, How early do you think about drafting tight ends?
Tight ends. Tight ends are weird. Sometimes you can sneak in there and get them a really good tight end 2nd round. Yeah,
if you got one in mind, it's definitely worth it.
Like maybe Gronk or Kelsey. I could see
might be one of those.
Jimmy Graham possibly. But normally I don't think about tight ends until probably fourth round, earliest, latest being probably 6th. But I would shoot for like 5th round is when I go for a tight end. They normally don't go too early, but But yeah, that's usually when I try to get them. So.
I think I'm doing 2 leagues this year, and one of them's with you, and it's a non-money one, and we only have 8 people in that one, so it's gonna be more fun. We get to pick a lot of more powerful picks, and honestly, if I'm picking after the 3rd pick, because in my head the first 3 picks should be a mixture of Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, interchangeable, all three to 4 of those. So after that, it gets a little more. You have more space. Like you're not obligated to pick the best player, right? You can pick your opinionated best player. So like that's when I would pick like Todd Gurley in the 1st round. Like that's what I'm trying to do. Like Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley. If I can get one of those in the 1st round, I'm definitely gonna do that because I expect a lot of people in ours to pick receivers early. And in my other league, I plan on doing that too. Don't steal him, you shits. But yeah. And if you're really itching to get a quarterback, I guess I think Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, and I think I would put Deshaun Watson are the only ones I'd be willing to go between, getting as early as the third round, once I've got a receiver and a running back, I'd be willing to, if Aaron Rodgers is still there, I might grab him, just because he's going to get a crap ton of points, and it's nice to have a really good quarterback, so if you can snag it, it's good, but I don't know, it's safer to play getting as many receivers or running backs, heavy point getters in PPR. So yeah, is there any dark horse players, maybe not sleepers, that you see being better than people are projecting them, or anyone doing worse, a top player a lot of people are considering to do good? Are you expecting anyone just to fall off the radar this year or anything like that?
I think Ezekiel Elliott, he may disappoint some people.
Really?
I think that he just might.
Is it the Giants fan in you or unbiased?
It's a little bit of the Giants fan in me, but I just think that the Cowboys right now are really bad. I think they're.
They didn't get better this offseason, that's for sure.
No, I just think that right now they're just.
Their defense.
They're not good. Honestly, I wouldn't put any Cowboys players on my roster personally, just because I don't think that anybody is consistent enough to really put on your roster.
That's true.
Honestly,
I could agree with that.
Now that Dez is gone and
maybe a good backup for a bye week kind of thing, a waiver claim.
I mean, Ezekiel Elliott I would put on mine if he was available. I'm just saying that I feel like he might disappoint because right now that ESPN has him ranked at.
It's number 3 or 4,
I believe. And I don't see him up there. I think Alvin Kamara and Leonard Fournette are definitely more reliable than him. So
that's definitely true. I can see ESPN has Keenan Allen ranked at number 6 as receiver right now, and I can see the Chargers in general having a really good season.
Yeah.
I think Philip Rivers is going to finally get his year. Maybe he goes 2 rounds deep in the playoffs for the first time in forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anyone from the Chargers offense is always good to pick up. We might not have mentioned a lot of them in our top 5, but they're definitely worth picking up, no matter where you are in the draft. Philip Rivers is a very good, consistent quarterback. He doesn't throw too many picks. Keenan Allen's a really good receiver.
They also have Mike Williams, who the rookie from Clemson, I believe. I could see him doing good this year. I think the Chargers will have a decent year.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at their. I want to know who their running back is. Melvin Gordon. Of course it is. Yeah, Melvin Gordon's a good running back. He's a good number 2.
I totally forgot about him.
I totally forgot about him.
He's a really good flex player.
Yeah.
You can definitely scoop him in the later rounds.
And Philip Rivers likes throwing to everyone, so he's good for PPR. Man, you remember the glory days of Danny Woodhead in fantasy?
Yeah.
Man, he used to be the top PPR running back solely because Tom Brady would throw to him. Players like that is what you have to
Rivers,
look out for.
Chargers, he was always
he went to the Chargers because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, look out for players that are going to be good. Juju Smith might be someone people aren't going to flock to immediately, in the first couple of rounds, just because you kind of forget about him in the mix with all the. There's a lot of talented receivers 1 through 20. There's at least 20 to 30 really good receivers in this. Arguably even more than that, depending on how the season goes. So yeah, I think nailing down a receiver in your first or second round and a running back in those 2 rounds are musts. Unless you've got some weird strategy that you want to do, where you pick Aaron Rodgers first pick and where you get that number 12, number 13 pick or whatever at the end of the snake, and you get Aaron Rodgers and a receiver. That's probably something I would do.
Yeah. I know last year I had Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell. That worked out really good for me because Le'Veon Bell caught a lot of touchdowns and it doubled up, and overall it helped me out a lot. So that's definitely one way to do it.
Leading into that, what are some quarterback receiver duos just like that? I used to do Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson. That was really good.
Yeah.
What are some ones that people should be trying to grab for?
A really good one is Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. That might be hard to do, but I've done it before and it worked out really good. Carson Wentz and Nelson Aguilar maybe, because you can probably get Nelson Aguilar in the later rounds, and but that would be possibly a pretty deadly duo right there.
Drew Brees and Michael Thomas
Definitely.
probably be ideal as long as he stays number one. You know,
Yeah.
Eli Odell.
Yeah.
You know, like if you can get a top receiver that has a good quarterback and just pair him up, or running back or tight end, really in a PPR, those are both beneficial because each touchdown is 12 points minimum. So yeah, it's all there's a lot more to drafting in fantasy than people give it credit for. You know, they're just like, oh, just pick the best player. No, you gotta think, people. You gotta think. Don't be stupid. I got people in my leagues that don't use their brain when they draft. I want you to use your damn brains. Okay, promise me. Promise me. Okay. Any last remarks you got? Anything you need to get out of you that you haven't said?
I do.
Okay.
If you had the number 1 overall pick, who are you getting?
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown.
Like that.
Yeah.
Unless someone can convince me why I would take Odell instead. And I say that, and it's weird because I have DeAndre as my number 2, but I still don't think DeAndre's worth the number 1.
Yeah.
Like, I think the only person not Antonio Brown would be Odell or Todd Gurley. It's because I have a fantasy hard-on for him. So
Yeah.
I've just had a lot of good luck with that guy.
Yeah. Mine would either be Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Either one of them I could definitely take first overall. It would definitely be between them two.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd probably pick Antonio just because it's hard to get receivers like him.
Yeah.
So.
I think the only thing stopping him is getting hurt.
Yeah.
And I hope he does not. I want to see him go off. I want to see him break records. That'd be pretty cool. That's all we got. I appreciate you coming on with me, Gabe. Bing Bong. I'm sorry.
It was an honor.
It was an honor. Well, you'll see us when we do the fantasy draft next. Not him, but you'll see me and Bozo. Bozo will be back. We'll do our fantasy draft this weekend. I think, unless something else pops up randomly in between. But thanks for watching. Later.